What is up, River Run fans? Adam Pross, your host, is here in the seat. Yeah, that's me. What is going on? How are you tonight? Welcome to another episode of the River Run podcast, brought to you by the fine folks over at Paddle and Fishn. Don't forget, Paddle and Fishn has shows every night of the week, so check them out. Welcome. How's everybody doing? What's new and exciting? Well, I gotta say, I went on my last road trip of the season. Now, I try to go as far and as long out to wherever. I've done a lot of different events this year. I've taken part in, oh God, like I've been down in the States. I've been up here in Canada doing stuff. So, yeah, no, it's been fun, and the fishing season is not done. But for me, it's coming to an end for my road trip season. I got to go on my last one, and I got to share it with some pretty awesome people. Steve Ite, he is the uh, director for Hard Knox Kayak Fishing, something I'm also a part of. We got together. We go to a thing called the Paddle Sport Get Together, which is brought to you by Peter Young and his awesome group of volunteers, directors, everybody from like Mandy to Mitch, Sergio, Jordo, like all you guys. I just wanted to say, I know it didn't plan out the way that we wanted to, obviously with the weather, but at the end of the day, I think it was a pretty awesome day. We still got out there. We still got on the water, even though it was, yeah, it was pretty rough. But we had a time window. We made a plan. Always have a plan. You see, if you have a plan, you get prepared. You got it. You got a game plan. You know how you're going to take on this weather. Either way, had a really awesome. I was throwing a 6-inch mag draft, the freestyle, and I was just casting it like it. I'll be honest, I was just like, I had a limited time window. I was just like, I'm gonna go big, and I'm gonna just try and attract as much as attention as I can. And I was just casting that thing out, and I had I had actually caught a little 13-inch largemouth on a small little TRD bugs. And when I was just kind of in this little shallow hole, and I was like, this looks like this might do something. So as I started to make my way back, I started throwing my big old 6-inch freestyle, and I casting it at the weed line, just vegetation, pulling it through, and I'm not really paying attention. And I'm kind of like looking at a group of kayakers coming my way. And as I look down at my bait, I swear this thing had to be 40 plus inches. And it was a muskie, and the head on this thing, it was huge. Like you could have touched it. So I slowly began to roll that bait and move that rod and kind of begin to figure eight it. And it didn't dart away. It just followed it. And then it's like they just went opposite ways of each other. So calm, so majestic, like just so like, I'm not going to eat this today. I'm kind of thankful though, because but like that would have been cool. Like I couldn't get over. Like you could have touched that thing. It was that close to my Jackson Bite FD. Like, yeah. I also I'm not a lucky person by any means. And I don't usually I would buy a lottery ticket, but I understand that I know that I'm not going to win it. So they have all these raffles, right? And the whole idea with this paddle sport get together is it goes to a group called A Ray of Hope, which is a Kitchener, Ontario group that what they do is they pretty much help anybody with resources from homelessness to drugs, addiction, you name it. Like it's all there. And, it's from youth to, anybody who's going through a hard time. And these people are fantastic humans for what they do. So every year, Peter holds this, incredible raffle, and you can bring dry goods and everything too to donate, and you will get prizes for the biggest donation of dry goods. It's a really cool event, and they have a really awesome layout to the way that you can fish. So you could go out there and just hammer bass all day, or you could try and catch the smallest fish. You could try and catch like the Grand Slam. Um, Pigeon Lake, the Kawarthas. If you ever get the chance, go check it out. But yeah, no, the paddle sport get together, it was awesome. So here I am, like standing there with Steve and a bunch of us, Warren Wong, a couple other guys, and like first I won a Shimano Intenza spinning rod, which is like a 7.4 medium light. I was like as if like Adam Pross does not win things. So Adam Pross won something. I was like, whoa, this is awesome. So then, and I had put in like raffle tickets like in a bunch of different little spots. So then they go to draw these NRS life jackets PFDs, and boom, my ticket gets drawn, and I'm like, holy crap. So then they had like a couple of them. So I was like trying to figure out which one I was going to go with, and I ended up going with the Odyssey, which I really like the bright red, so cool. And then they're like, "Do you have this ticket number also?" And I'm like, yeah, I do." It was like last digit was a 7 or something. Anyways, so they look, they're like, "Oh my god, you got it." So I won 2 NRS PFDs. One is, it was a large, extra large, and the other one was a extra small to medium, which, if you got family members, my beautiful wife might, next time, if she ever wants to come out paddling with me, if you're listening, you can always come out. My son, who was like, "Oh my god, dad, I need a new PFD." So yeah, I came home also like feeling pretty pumped about it. At the end of the day, it was just like it's just an event full of positivity, and it's there for a great cause. So Peter Young and your fantastic crew of volunteers, awesome job. And yeah, I look forward to next year. The River Run podcast is always excited to be part of uh, events like that. So yeah, count us in. If you're going to go that route again next year, the River Run podcast will be a part of your paddle sport get together. Also, Unity. Unity is cool. Like, so Unity was Kayak Bass Canada and Team Brothers Fishing, which is the Quebec trail, very popular Quebec trail. Actually, it's like probably the number one kayak fishing trail in Quebec, and it's Team Brothers, and they do a fantastic job of putting together a team style trail. So they got together with the guys from Kayak Bass Canada, and they did this thing called Unity, and they brought Ontario guys to fish with Quebec guys and whatnot. So I seen all these like great videos coming in, and I seen like all these posts about like what the one thing that we all come together for: community brings people together. The kayak community is bringing people from 2 different provinces together. Big shout out to those guys. That was really cool to see. Very well done on the Kayak Bass Canada crew and also the Team Brothers Fishing crew. Awesome. And next year, I believe it's in Ontario. So yeah, that would be cool to definitely hit up. So watch for that. And oh yes, okay, so the Roto Grip Phone Holder Pro. I have to say, I took it out with me on Saturday. I have it mounted right on my flex drive, right in the front. There's like a little piece of track right there, and I put it on. So I have my phone in this, okay, and I'm the type of guy that always has his phone in some sort of holder. Now, is that the best idea? I don't know. I use a tether, so it is safe. It is where it needs to be. But I just wanted to say that this thing actually gained a little bit of like noise while it was there because people were like, "Oh my god, is that the Yak Attack phone holder?" I'm like, yeah, it is." And they're like, "No way." I'm like, "Here, give me your phone." Boom, put it in it. And they're like, wow. Even my buddy Steve, I was like, yo, take your phone, put it in. He's like, really nice. And like, so point being is if you need a phone holder, the Yak Attack Roto Grip Phone Holder Pro is the way to go. Like, you can get them from Yak Attack. You can get them at your local paddle shops, such as Frontenac Outfitters. They always have great stuff. So yeah, no. At the end of the day, check them out. It is a worthwhile investment because at the end, when you think about it, that is your one line of connection. So should you lose that, whether you should probably already have it tethered, but and you can shoot video. You could go live while you could shoot take a couple photos of you and some nice selfies of some fish. Like it's super handy to have. So I don't know if you're in the market, check it out. There you go. That's the one. Don't forget the fine folks over at Dubro Fishing. I've done the River Run podcast, an awesome discount for all you who are looking at that new Do More utility cup. They got the Dewey baits, they got the rod holders, ceiling. You could put them on the wall. You can do anything with them, really. Check them out, dubrofishing.com. But don't forget, Dubro Fishing code is RUN. So it is RRUN 10, all caps. Save 10% at checkout. Once again, thank you to Dubro Fishing. I don't know if anybody saw the new Jackson Kayak color schemes for 2025, but all I have to say is Black Widow, Coosa X. I think I'm falling in love. No, I'll be honest. I just like, I have the playa. I love the playa. I love the playa scheme, but the black and red of the Black Widow, which I just think it's come on now. If you've watched any Marvel movie, you would know that Black Widow. She is she is a bombshell. So I'm like, you know what? This has to be the color, and the little black and some red there. Ooh, I'm liking it. Yeah, go check them out. Jackson Kayak Fishing. They have it all there. At the same time, you can check out Jackson Kayak's other color schemes. My favorite is obviously the Black Widow. What is yours? Let me know down below. Okay, so let's get into this. My guest tonight is none other than the one and only Trey A. Potts. Trey is coming all the way over from the Washington side. He's a kayak angler, a fellow JK team member of mine, and yeah, enough said. Enough of me, right? Like, let's bring him on to the show. Trey, what's going on, dude?
Hey, Adam, thank you for having me on.
Hey, no problem, man. Thanks for coming on by the River Run, dude. Like, it's always fun to sit down and talk kayak fishing, but it's even funner when you can talk with a fellow JK member. So, dude, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, as you said, my name is Trey Potts. I'm from Washington State, born and raised, and I compete with the KFW League. And I'm not competing; I just do a lot of fun fishing. A lot of anything that's got tails in a fin, I'll be chasing it from the river
No, that's cool.
river to lake. I don't do a lot of ocean fishing.
If it swims, you're out to get it, right?
That's pretty much it.
Cool. So, Washington, dude, that's cool. We were talking backstage, and I was sharing that, like, I actually I grew up for most of my like teenage life and into my early 20s. I lived in the Lower Mainland, British Columbia, and I spent a lot of time down in Washington State, Oregon, California, traveling all over, but yeah, Washington is like I don't know if you've never been to the Northwest, you have to check it out. Like the the scenery, the mountains, the air, that breeze, like it is. Oh man, I'm out in Ontario in Cornwall, and it definitely is no match to the Northwest. So that's cool, dude. How have you always like born and raised in Washington, or?
Yeah, I was born and raised in the Walla Walla area of Washington, so the eastern side of the state. Not as
Cool.
pretty as your Seattle area or Vancouver
Yeah,
area,
yeah.
but it's got its own kind of scenery. It's and its own fishery, so it's all kind of different. But yeah,
No, dude.
it's all worth checking out. The whole state's just beautiful. The fishing's great, especially this time of year.
So the Columbia River, is that like one that you fish regularly, or?
I don't do a lot of the Columbia River. I mean, this time of year I do because you got salmon running up it, so I do a lot of salmon fishing, and it's got a lot of
Nice.
big smallmouth in it, so it's hard to not want to go and do the Columbia. But it's such a big river. I mean, the spot of the Columbia we have outside Trash Cities is night and day difference to the Columbia down by Portland. I mean, it's
Oh yeah.
the fish are different, they fight different sizes. It's and not to mention you got the Columbia. It's up by what would it be Grand Coulee area. That's a different section of the
Mm-hmm.
Columbia, different kind of fish. So it's an amazing fishery to do to go. You get all kinds of different
No, that's
attitudes in fish, you could
no.
say.
You know what? And I, like you, this when you say like you got big smallmouth, and you're talking about a salmon run too, right? And you know, I as for being a smallmouth, I'm sure that the size has a lot to do with that high protein appetite that they probably have for the salmon, trout runs, and whatnot that are moving up these river systems. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, last year we had an angler in the Washington Kayak League. He pulled a 23-inch smallmouth out of the Columbia River during one of our tournaments. So I mean, we got a lot of big smallmouth, and it's not uncommon to see fish that size.
Like, and like to have those river systems that hold that size is, that is impressive. You don't,
Yeah.
not, because not every, well, maybe there is every, but I wouldn't say, well, I wouldn't say every, but, you know, there's some river systems that just, I don't know, for whatever reason, they don't hold the same size, as others. Is that due to, like, well, where I'm thinking is probably diet is right there. But um yeah, no, it's neat, dude. That's got to be just the scenery alone is amazing out there, and to be on the river, and big fishing big fish and big smallies. I think I could definitely get lost out there for sure.
Oh, you certainly can. And if you get tired of the smallmouth, we got plenty of largemouth in the Columbia too. They're a little bit harder to find, but there are also some big largemouth in that river too. If you know where you're looking, you can find some big largemouth.
So, I wanted to dive into this whole like WAKBF, and which when we were talking backstage, and for the folks that aren't familiar with this is the Washington Kayak Bass Fishing, and then which actually there is the Kayak Fishing Northwest, which holds Washington State, Oregon, and Idaho. So Trey uh doesn't just fish like his local waters. When we were chatting, he's like all over. So like that's got to be interesting, dude. Like you're like, how far are you driving for these events and whatnot?
Oh, these drives can be anywhere. The longest drive I had this year was the most recent tournament in Oregon, and that was a 7-hour drive. down to the Umpqua River, but anywhere from 3 hours to 5 hours is not an uncommon drive just for me to hit these different tournaments. Even in Washington State, most of our tournaments are, for me, 3 to 4 hours away.
Now, like I gotta ask you, because like I'm somebody who like I love to travel to fish. So whether it's a 6, 7, 4, 5, you know what I mean? Like, um, to me it doesn't really matter. But like I'm a car camper, so when I go out to whether and even when I used to fish tournaments, I car camped. But like I have for me, like I'm just like, well, the most cheapest efficient way is to like sleep in my journey, and like I have a full setup and whatnot. And now I'm like absolutely obsessed with this idea of like almost living out of my journey, as silly as that sounds. Have a house and wife and kids and whatever, but no, like I have this journey with my setup. Like, what do you generally do? Do you camp? Do you like are you guys like one of those guys that just hotel room? Like, because I got buddies who are always like, yeah, man, just gonna get a hotel room. I'm like, or can't like, oh, gonna go pitch a tent. I'm like, oh, well, I'll just I'll find a parking lot and I can make do, or boat ramp, or you know what I mean, the
Oh, I know
side of the
exactly what you mean.
highway.
I'm
Yeah,
the same way. I mostly stay. I don't have quite the setup you probably do. I just stay in my pickup. Front seat's really enough for me. If I get to where I'm going and take the stuff out of the back seat, drop the seat back, and take either a quick nap or sleep throughout the night for the tournament. But yeah, I just find usually it's the closest truck stop or the closest Walmart to the lake where I'm fishing.
oh,
That's where I'm staying for
yeah.
most of that weekend.
Dude, I think Walmart parking lots are like the best. Like, um,
I they're a lot of fun staying. I can say that, especially on the western side of our state. And
it gets
you can get you
entertaining.
can get a free entertainment. Yeah, you get some free entertainment there if you time it just right.
Yeah. I've stayed at a couple Walmart parking lots, and now it's funny. I notice a lot now that like they have signs that say like no like overnight parking, no camping. I'm like, well, like I don't know. So obviously somebody ruined it for somebody else, or for the rest
Yeah,
of
I've
us. You
noticed
know
that.
what I
I've
mean?
noticed that too. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Usually when I go, if it's early enough, I'll go in and talk with the manager of the store and say, "Hey, I'm only staying for a night, maybe 2 nights. Is it okay if I stay in your parking lot? I'm gonna be there for the night. I'll be gone by 3 o'clock in the morning to go
Yeah.
fishing. So
Yeah.
really,
And
I'm only
that's
staying for a couple hours a night. So I
it,
haven't had an issue yet with the Walmart. When I've gone and talked to them about it, they've been pretty happy to have me there. You could say respectful about it.
well, and you know what? You're doing the right thing. You're asking. So, there's nothing wrong with asking, right? So
It's
I,
like I always say, it's always a no until you ask. You're always going to have your answer's always going to be no unless you ask. That's the only.
well, yeah, dude, 100%, 100%. Okay, so like, do you have like, have you kind of figured out like the best way to like maximize your sleep time, like to actually get significant, like decent sleep while like not necessarily sleeping in your bed or a bed? You know what I mean? Like, like I've kind
Mhm.
of been able now where like I have everything set up. So like I'm like, when it comes like time to go to bed, it's like I have this like I have a little ritual where I drink some like sleepy time tea, and then it's just like and I go to bed, and then like I'm not kidding, like my alarm hits at like I don't know, let's say like 3 in the morning, or um 4:30, depending on how far. It really depends how far of a drive I have. And so for me, I generally like lay these two outdoor cushions, and then I have like my sleeping bag and my pillow, and I'm like, I'm good. I'm good. But I can tell you the first time that I did it, I had none of that. And I think I maybe caught like 30 minutes of sleep that night. You know what I mean? And my back was so sore. And I was like, and then the next day I had to get up and fish this tournament. And I'll be honest with you, it was like, one, it was ultra hot out, very humid, and the entire time I was out there, like I just could not get comfortable because my back was just like screaming at me. And I was like, I had to do something different. So, and I've heard stories of people like sleeping. Like I had a couple buddies before who were like, "Yeah, we slept in our trucks last night." I'm like, "How'd you do that?" And they're like, "Oh, we got this like special like blow up mattress that like fits over the seat and then goes down where the leg rests are." And I'm like, "Wow, that's I never would have thought of that." And then my wife ends up showing me. She's like, "Oh, did you see this?" And it's like it's a blow up mattress that goes in the back of your car, and it like it. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, this could make life a lot easier. But yeah, no, like what do you just like kind of like cram it into that front seat and lean it back and just, like that's it for you?
Yeah, something like it's a little bit like that. The I drive a Tacoma, and that driver's seat, it can knock back almost flat, and so when I get to where I'm going, I'll kick the seat all the way back as far as it can go, and then I'll get on my phone. They'll verify the times it takes me to get to the boat launch, especially for a tournament. I'll verify the wake up, the check-in times, how far that boat launch is from me, or our meetup spot is. And then once I get everything verified, I'm happy with it. I just, I drop the seat back and do the best I can to get some sleep. And I can usually get about 3 to 4 hours hours of sleep before a tournament. It doesn't sound like a lot, but I'm leaving the day before a tournament now, so I don't really
So
get the chance to get a lot of sleep.
then you got to get that coffee in here, that energy drink, or,
Oh,
the
it's always
green
an energy
tea.
drink too.
Yeah.
Two in the
Yeah. Yeah.
morning. I
Yeah.
got the one for the wake up, and then I got the one for when I'm on the water. So
I used to have this thing where I would take
I'm
pictures
gonna.
of my energy drink on my kayak, and it would be like, um, paddling with like Rosa, and it'd be like a pink like monster, like the Rosa,
Oh
or
yeah.
like yeah, dude, like or like be like ultra morning, and there'd be like me paddling, and there'd be like my monster like right in front. Yeah, man, I love energy drinks, but so I gotta ask you, so you do a lot of these tournaments, and you like obviously you're like how do you prepare, like how do you prepare for like like for jumping like so many, like you're jumping 3 states here, you know what I mean, like you're not just fishing one state, you're like that takes probably a lot of like homework, same time preparation, it just not in your like your gear, your travel, but like understanding these bodies of water that you are attempting to hopefully cash out on at the same time, or, win some prizes, or just, you know, beat a personal best.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of prep that goes into it, and a lot of it's behind the scenes. Some of my coworkers get to see it because I got a few that sit behind me, and every morning depending on what tournament's next and what lake's next, I've got the depth chart of that lake pulled up right next to the satellite image on Google Earth of that lake pulled up right next to the list of the boat launches we're allowed to use. I got 3 screens all at once on top of my work screen that I use for work. So I got 4 screens all at once I'm surfing through, and a lot of it's just the breakdown of the contours of the lake or river. And then when it comes to bass, my philosophy has kind of been they're all kind of engineered the same. They're down south and A-rig works great. I'm finding out up here, a lot of people either haven't tried them yet or don't think they work that great, but they're all wired to attack balls of bait fish. And A-rig does a great job at representing that ball of bait fish. And so when I look at a river system or a lake that we're going to, a lot of it's already planned out that okay, these fish are going to be the same, close to the same biologically as these fish in my home river. It's just where are they going to be stacked differently compared to my home river. And so
Nice.
that's where a lot of the depth charts come into help.
Well, like that's a solid approach, dude. I really liked how you worded that. Like, um, you've taken the same idea that a fish, fish are fish, and
Yeah.
when you go into a river system or a lake or whatnot, maybe the time of year might dictate where they might be holding, but the approach to catching is never different from your own body of water, and you're using that approach just like the A rig. The A rig is an amazing bait to throw, and it does catch. You can hammer like two fish at once on an A
Oh
rig,
yeah.
no problem. And you get a school, um, especially on the St. Lawrence River. I've done that, and just it's a big bait. It's a big ball of plastic you're throwing, but at the end of the day, like it does produce, man. Your arms
It
might get
does. I
tired.
used it. I used it. What was it? A few weeks ago with my grandpa. We went to Potholes Reservoir, which is uh, close to my area. It's about an hour and a half drive, and the reservoir is known for holding big largemouth. And we went out, and it was probably my third time throwing the A rig ever. And he looked at me kind of like, "What is that?" I said, "Well, it's an A rig. I'm learning how to throw it." And he just kind of chuckling. I mean, he understood why I was doing it to get experience behind the lure. And probably 4 or 5 casts in, I had 2 4-pound largemouth on it right at the boat, and his jaw just dropped. We lost one. Shook. When you got two on fighting different ways, you might lose one. So when I pulled one of them up, he goes, "All right, so that bait does work," and it kind of floored him a little bit, just that how effective that bait is.
Yeah,
It's weird throwing it. I mean, you're throwing a 3-ounce lure as far as you
yeah,
can really get it out, and
yeah. You definitely need you definitely need um, a rod with some length and a rod with some power. And um, I like I would go. Well, the setup that I use is a 711 um, Lose custom light, which has a Super Duty it's Lose Super Duty reel on it, and I'll go anywhere between 20 like pound fluoro, or I'll just go like 50-pound braid. And yeah, and I'll chuck this thing, and it does seem to work really well in the fall. Like that's where most of my if I'm going to use it, it's the fall, and that's when it seems to produce the best. No, that's cool. I haven't really chatted with anybody in a while about the A rig, and I was just actually
yeah,
thinking about it the other day. Literally, I was like, I was in the garage, and I have it like hanging on like my tackle wall, and I was like, it's coming to this time. We need to meet up again, So,
yeah. And,
um,
and the only reason I was throwing it was one to get experience behind it, and our fall is just kind of starting, so it was a little bit early, but we're also, they're biting a jerk bait and they're biting uh, the Kitech paddle tails. I'm like, well, there's no reason why this shouldn't work if they're hitting bait fish. So no
no,
reason not to give it a shot to try it. And yeah,
yeah,
it's a lot of it's just getting confidence in different lures, different approaches, maybe something that someone else isn't throwing or isn't common for the area that you're in to throw.
yeah. Sometimes just making that slight change, altering, your presentation, or altering the whole presentation for something else, you know. Um, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Um, but so would you say, like, when it comes to tournament fishing, you like after your preparation, would you find yourself more like power fishing, or are you kind of more on the finesse side of things?
Oh no, I'm big finesse. I love the drop shot is my by far my go-to. It is always
Nice.
rigged up, sitting right next to me, and it's ready to go. It doesn't matter uh, if it's early morning, dead of winter, early spring, summer, any time of year or day, it's tied up right next to me. It's ready for action all the time.
So, I want to ask you there. You said winter. So, is your bass season like is this open year round for you?
No, we generally go. So we start in, I'd say about May is when we have our first kind of open, and then if you make it to our classic, it runs into about about mid-October, which depending on the area you're fishing, if it's the west side of Washington State or in this case northern Idaho, the temperatures can feel like it's a late fall to early winter. It's going to be 50 degrees, 60 degrees, if not worse than that. So Our transition once our fall time and springtime hit, you're usually fishing kind of this both winter transition and fall transition at the same time, or winter transition, spring transition at the same time.
Cool. Your like because like where I am, bass season, bass season opens for largemouth and smallmouth. They're actually on certain rivers or in certain zones, fishing zones. They open, weeks apart of each other. So for me, where I am, it opens in the third weekend of um, June, and then from there, smallmouth opens the second. I think it's the second, or I should know this. The second or the first weekend. I think it's the second weekend of July, and then you have all the way till the end of the year. But once it gets too cold and snow flies, Adam is not on the water.
Yeah.
I don't, I don't do cold water. I would like to, and it's funny. And on a recent episode, I had Chuck Earls, and if you have probably heard of Chuck Earls, he is the cold water safety guy. And I don't know, man, he kind of has me convinced on, dry suits and checking that out and maybe extending my season, because you can actually fish. We have this like catch and release season, which goes from January all the way till May. So obviously, January and
That's
February, you probably there. I don't know how you're gonna get out on the water. If you have a boat, maybe kayaks. I don't know, because I would think it'd be so frozen. But yeah, once it gets into like maybe like March and April, maybe I'd like try and get out on the water on those warmer days and do it safely in a dry suit. But yeah, no. Do you guys get a lot of snow? Like, does that affect your seasons at all like that?
so it depends on the area. It's funny you mentioned that you have times where your bass fishing opens as for as far as I know, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, the entire west coast of the U.S. that I'm aware of, it's open year round for our bass
Yeah.
fishing. So
Okay.
we have our tournament season, but our uh, our bass fishing, you can fish the December 31st if you want to for smallmouth and largemouth. Probably not going to be as successful, but if you want to learn how to fish cold water dead of winter fishing, that's the time to do
So
it.
you mentioned another bait that absolutely love, and I know some people might like get bored doing it. I love the drop shot. Like anytime I go out on certain bodies of water, I always have a drop shot tied on, and um, it has produced me some amazing fish. It has also caught me some days of like, everything other than bass, catching everything from, gobies to perch, walleye, you name it. You're looking for
Oh yeah.
smallies and you're not finding them, but yet the gobies and everything else. Um, what's I just want to talk here. What do you go for your drop shot setup here? Like what do you generally run? Like,
Oh, let's see. I run a lot of different baits depending on the body of water I'm fishing or the bait that I'm trying to represent, but most of it's the KVD dream shots. Those
oh, yeah,
those are
yeah,
my
yeah.
go-to. The Berkeley power bait flatworm is becoming another top favorite of mine. It's
Okay,
gaining up there. I'm wanting to chase something smaller.
I for ye okay, so I remember when that flatworm came out, and I ended up the people were going crazy for them. Like, and I ended up getting like a couple packages, and I think I got like, I don't know, it was like natural shad and green pumpkin or something. I it's to this day, that is still my favorite drop shot lure. That has to tiny piece of plastic. I don't know what the fishing
Yeah,
gods
no,
have
I agree
put
with
in
you
that
there.
thing. I don't know. It produces, like, I'm not kidding you. I have put on other baits. I have, I've gone. I love like the Hosden or Hasden, the Mega Bass,
Mm-hmm.
little, or like a Kitech, like anything like that. Um, and usually Kitechs have like, a pretty, I think they use like squid scent in it. Um, I don't know what they use in those Berkeley Max scent flatworms, but whatever is in it, it is incredible. And I've even tried to like take the package of an empty one or mix in other baits with it just to see if I could try whatever, and yeah, I don't know. That is, I don't know if it's the action. I think it has a lot to do with the scent, but yeah,
Yeah, no, I have to agree
those
with you on
things
that one.
produce, it's a drop shot. Like, if there's current, it flutters in the current, you know what I mean? Like if you lift it up, it's, like it's it's at your disposal how you want that bait to move. And
Yeah,
but I gotta say, like, I still like when I saw they had a sale on, I was like, thank you. I'll
yeah.
take a couple of
No,
these, take a couple of these. Thank you. You know what I mean? Like, yes,
yeah.
people. It's a great bait, man.
And
And
it's funny you mentioned the Kitex. Just recently started putting Kitex on my drop shot. Like the little 2.8s or even the bigger like 3.8s. And
oh
I've
yeah, for
got been
sure.
getting a lot of. It surprised me at how effective that bait was. And during a lot of our tournaments, the anglers they talk like, "Well, what'd you catch them on?" Like, "Well, I was using a Kitex." Like, "Well, I use a Kitex too. And I still didn't get near the bites you did or fish you did." Like, "Well, I put mine on a drop shot though." Like, "You fished a Kitech on a drop shot?" I was like, "Yeah, no,
Yeah,
when it comes to
yeah,
the drop shot, I will put baits that
mm,
typically aren't made for a drop shot and just try it. You know, especially if I'm
um,
not getting bit. What's the worst that's going to happen? Not get another bite. So I always experiment with different kinds of baits for the drop shot, and that's why I love it so much. Is
y-
one, it works amazingly, but you can do a lot with it.
yeah. The like hands down the flatworm. And my next favorite is a paddle tail. So I have like a couple of brands that I like to use. Um, I do like the Spark Shad and the other Hazen's Mega Bass. Little, they make this tiny little drop shot. I'll send you a picture of the one, but um, honestly, that one there, it comes in like I think it's like a 3 inch or maybe a 2.5, but I put a 4.5 inch on it, and I I want to say I was probably running close to 3/4 of an ounce on my weight, and I was like just letting this thing get as far deep as I could into that current, and I would just let it like hold itself. You know, you a lot of people would say the drop shot, yeah, it's productive, but it's productive in the sense that it catches fish of a variety of sizes, and most baits do. But I
It does.
find
No,
the
and
more, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, you're good. Yeah, no, I've found that the drop shot it does catch, especially with smallmouth. It catches for variety. I've caught in 4-inch fish. I've also caught in 18-inch fish. But when it
Yeah,
comes, especially with smallmouth fishing, when it comes to that, it's you gotta weed through the little ones, especially if you're in a fishery that has a lot of little fish in it that the big fish hang around. You just gotta weed through the little ones and find out
yeah,
how to
dude.
avoid them. Basically, if it's dead sticking your bait to making the little ones, they'll nibble at it. But if it's the dead stick, they'll just sit there pick at it, and then maybe a bigger one will come and go, "Hey, it's going to eat that. You're going to nibble on it." So, but
You
yeah,
know,
it definitely does pick up a variety of fish.
yeah, because like it's funny, like I've had baits that in on the drop shot, and I've been amazed by how big to how little the
Mm-hmm.
bait was, and how big this fish just like why it went for it. And as probably I'm thinking an easy meal, but I've also had like these bigger baits, like a larger Kitech or even a larger worm on it, and I'm like, like, why did you even inhale this thing? Like, you're so tiny, and yet you've literally tried to inhale it. Like, okay, cool. Like,
It's catching a 4-inch fish on a 6-inch worm.
there
You
you
know,
go.
it's
Yeah, it's
I've done that many times, and it's like that makes no sense.
so. You're what's going on next with your tournament schedule? Where are you? What are you headed? Where are you headed next?
So my next tournament is Banks Lake. It is next to Electric City and Cooley Dam, right there along the Columbia. It's one of the spillways for the Columbia. It's mostly smallmouth fishery there, but there are some largemouth in it. And then after that, I actually just threw my hat back into Oregon and going to the Willamette River there in Portland to do smallmouth as well there for that tournament. So
Cool, cool. I like
yeah,
Portland,
I got
Oregon.
those two. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. I didn't plan on doing that one, but the more I got to thinking about it, you know, our league's doing a giveaway, Road Warrior giveaway for a kayak trailer and a few other big prizes for whoever
Sweet.
gets drawn for it. So the more tournaments we do this year, the more entries you get put in for that giveaway. And I figured why not make the trip? It's about a 4-hour drive, so not the worst I've ever
Okay,
done. So
so this is the other thing I wanted to ask you about. You went to Oregon one weekend, and like you on the 24th of August hit first place at the kayak fishing Northwest, but this was an event in the Oregon KBF event, which earned you a spot to go fish the classic in October. Congratulations, by the way, dude. That's awesome. And you walked
thank you.
away with $1,400 little grab right there. Like, that's cool. Like, how just like walk me through that. Like what, you don't have to share the secrets of the secret sauce, but like how that had to feel pretty good, as somebody driving far and taking on all these tournaments, and then boom,
Yeah.
you cut yourself a check, you got yourself a W, and you also cut your way into this classic. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, you know that the classic is going to be on the Dorshak Reservoir in Idaho, a really famous smallmouth fishery. I mean, and I used to fish that reservoir, and when last year we knew about it last year from that it was going to be there after that classic, and I told myself I was going to do anything in my power to make that classic, and I had a rough start to this tournament year, and so the more I bounced around, the more I knew I needed to get into it, and the season was coming down to an end, and I looked at the Lower Umpqua event. You know, I figured maybe I'll go to it, maybe I won't. It's a pretty far drive. It's, you know, I'm not too sure. And then work happened to send me down that way. And I said, well, if I'm going to go there for work, I might as well take the detour route and fish the tournament just to give myself one extra shot because Washington only had one event at that point in time left. And so I figured, why not give it a shot? Give me one extra event in case my last event in Washington doesn't pan out. So made the drive, and I remember thinking halfway through that drive, I was like, man, is this really going to be worth it? You know, I'm 5.5 hours into this drive, and like it's 12 o'clock in the 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the morning. It's like this is not gonna be a fun event if it doesn't pan out. I'm not gonna be in a good mood. It's gonna be a downer if I don't do well in it. So I'm glad it turned out the way it did. I was nervous the entire time after that tournament, and so when those standings got announced, to say I was excited would be an understatement. That was a big confidence boost for me doing that.
Dude, yeah. To honestly though, like to walk away with you you've really so you've really put this mental aspect, this positive mindset part where you've kind of talked yourself into like, can I do this? I can do this. I'm able
Yeah.
to go out there. I'm going to do this. Like, and there's always that side in the back that's like, like, what are you doing? Like, why? Like,
It's like,
and
dude, you're crazy for doing this. Like, why are you doing
yeah,
it?
yeah. Like, what? Like, why are you out here right now? This is
Yeah.
silliness.
None.
Because you and then you go and do it, and then you
Yeah.
succeed. And now, did you know, like, just out of curiosity, when that day ended, like when it was like lines out uh, of the water, did you have a good feeling that you were, in the top three, or would you, or did you already know, like, yeah, dude, I'm sitting on top right now, like, I know it.
No, no, I had no idea. So the way our league works is about halfway through the day, they'll cut the standings out so the anglers
Yeah,
can't, no one can see the standings. Whether you're watching
yeah.
from the side or you're an angler, you can't see your standings. On top of that, the spot that I was fishing, we didn't have any service. And so, or at least I didn't have any service. So
Oh
all the
man.
fish that I caught, I still had to go and adjust the time to go into town, submit those fish in. And so I didn't even have a good feeling about it. It's like when I study for these lakes and these rivers, I don't pre-fish before my tournament. I do everything on paper, depth charts, maps, Google Images, everything that I do study wise is all virtual pretty much. And then
It-
from there on, when I hit a river system, it's me fishing is all it is. It's just day fishing. I break it down the best I can. But that whole day, I was catching fish almost all day, but it was still, I didn't think I had a very good bag. There's, like I said in the last podcast, Oregon has a lot of great anglers, and I was way out of my element fishing not only a river 7 hours away, but a tidal river. So the tide's coming in, tide's coming out. It
that's
was a river
that's a
that
cool
wasn't
experience.
in my ball game. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
no, I
not it.
was I was nervous as heck after that tournament, and it was talking with a few other anglers like, "Hey, how'd you do out there?" I go, "Well, it's struggle. Didn't catch my limit. Caught four, caught three, and yeah, it was. So I was nervous to say the least. And I talked with one angler. He goes, "Man, had 76 inches at the end of the day, but I kept battling back and forth with a guy in first." I was like, "Man, that's a good bag for this river." And he goes, "What'd you into?" I was like, "Well, I got 79 and a half." He goes, "I think you might have just won it because I was." He goes, "I was sitting there in the top because he had service the entire day until they cut the standings. And I was sitting there in the top with 76." And I did a big photo dump at the end of the day with 79, and that's where my heart really was like, is he just saying that? Is he an angler just trying to
You're
mess with
just like,
me?
"Oh,
And
yeah,
that's
yeah."
yeah. So
He's
I
just trying
was
to get
I
in
was
my
still
head.
pretty nervous, but yeah, it's always I do it because of the nerve. I don't look at the standings because I want to fish. I want to focus on my game. I know when I go to these tournaments who I want to beat, how good they are, and not knowing where they sit encourages me to do better. I can catch a 20 inch, but hey, this guy probably caught a 21 inch. If I can do this, he did better. If he did this, I have to do better. So doing that mindset has really helped me in these tournaments of focusing on my own game and not worrying about what's going on the river system with the other anglers.
Well, like, man, that's incredible. Like, but when I was just looking at it here, like, in this post that you made, um 2 weeks ago, you said that there was a topwater popper and a megabass sleeper craw was the golden ticket for this event. That's cool. Like, I'll be
Yeah,
honest, I have not fished the sleeper craw. I have fished the dark sleeper, and that's a great smallmouth bait. Um, but yeah, no. So I gotta ask you, what are your thoughts on that megabass sleeper craw? Yeah, is that did that become a new favorite, or was that just kind of like always something you threw?
no, that became a new favorite last year during my tournament season. That sleeper craw got me third place on the Sprague Lake event last season, and I threw that one just on a hope and a dream that I'd catch a fish because I had been skunked all day, and I just bought that bait. I looked at it, I go, well, it's not going to hurt throwing something new at this point. I
Nope.
got 4 hours left of this tournament, haven't had a single bite all day, so let's see what happens. And slowly and steadily, I started catching more and more fish, and I actually lost my fifth fish in that tournament at the final minutes, breaking off my line. And after that tournament, it's like, hey, let's keep this in the back pocket. We'll work on it some more. learn how to fish it, learn how to get better on it. But that was, yeah, the sleeper craw's always kind of been there. It doesn't get called a lot, but it's definitely one of my. If I'm struggling, I'll throw it, or if I want to see
It's
what the mood of these fish are, I'll throw it and see what happens.
it's a sleeper, you know what I mean? Like it just
Oh yeah,
slides
no,
in
it's.
there and stealth
I'm
mode.
amazed you haven't thrown it yet, being a big smallmouth guy. It's
No,
for our
I have
area,
not.
crawdads are big, and so especially in that tournament, we had an outgoing tide, and I figured, all these creatures that are up on the bank, water's dropping, they got to drop too, and a
Mhm.
lot of rock cover, a lot of log cover, and I was like, let's throw a crawdad, see what happens. And first fish was a 16
Boom.
and a quarter inch bass. I was like, all right, this is a good sign, and so I
Nice.
just worked it all day, and it was, yeah, they were so aggressive, they destroyed one of them, and so they
Took
destroyed my
the
best
pinchers.
one. So,
Oh,
oh no, they didn't take the pinchers. They completely ripped every part of that bait to shreds. They took one pincher. I kept throwing it. They took two. I kept throwing it. They took half the body off of it. I was like, all right, time to put a new one on because this one's getting
th
abused.
I don't when I think of smallmouth, um, they're weird in the way that they play with baits, you know what I mean? Like,
If they are,
it's almost like cats, cats are weird like that. They'll play with whatever they're hunting, whether it's a mouse, a
hmm,
bird, and it's just the thing could be like half mangled trying to get away, and the thing's still trying to play with it, like it's I
yeah,
don't know, smallmouth are just strange but fascinating
they are.
fish.
The way I always describe them is a smallmouth is just mad at the world. It just wants to attack everything.
Yeah,
It's mad at
yeah,
the world.
it is, and um, it yeah, like they'll do anything to not have to cross paths with you, and
Exactly.
once you fool them into taking your line, your bait. Oh man, like oh, they're just like, and they just the leverage that they can take and to try and throw baits and get themselves out of hooks, it's wow, like it's you could have, you're like, oh, that thing's amazing. It's got the fight, and then you get it on the boat and you're like, seriously? Like that?
Yeah, no, I know that feeling all too well. One of the 16 inches I got was probably the second one, and I was like, man, this is a real good fish. This is gonna be 18, 19 inches, and I netted it. I was like, what? You fought like you're 5 pounds, and you're maybe two and a half, three. Like, why do you have so much power? But that's just the way
Yeah.
smallmouth is. They're
Yeah.
amazing like that.
And I'm sure yours, like, you know, um, that Dorshak Reservoir, I have heard of that. I heard about that years ago. And then I was watching a Jeff Little video, and he just happens to fish this Dorshak Reservoir, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. Like, I swear I've heard of that. And anyways, that's really neat that like you could like you're you have those places that just hold tremendously large smallmouth, at your disposal to fish. Like I think if I moved back out west, I don't think I'd ever be home. I would just be coming down to go out fishing, in Washington and Oregon. Like to be honest with you, I've never fished in Oregon or Idaho, but I have fished in Washington State in my younger years. But no, it's cool. Now, so I got to ask you. You are also a fellow JK member and a Jackson Kayak Fishing team member. So I got to ask you, like, what, like, how did yours start? Like, what year, like, right now, um, you have the NAR is the kayak that you use in the Playa scheme?
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah. I got the player NAR, and I love that kayak. I love that color. Like that color
Dude,
just it
love
shines
it.
on the water compared
Oh,
to every kayak I've seen out there. it is eye candy. I mean, it really is,
It
especially
is.
cleaned up and shiny going down the road. It
Oh,
turns heads, and I love it. I mean, it's an
every
amazing kayak. The whole
I
kayak
have
itself is just amazing. But
yeah, the NAR is like it's definitely, for in my opinion is like that tournament rig, that ultimate rig to go out there and, you have a tremendous amount of accessories to go with it. And if you're, into whether you're, using the flex drive or you're, doing like a bow mount or stir mount motor, whichever way, like it's equipped for that. You know what I mean? Um, I think now on yours,
yeah, no,
are
yeah,
you do you run motor on yours or are you just still doing the pedal?
no, I only do pedal on it. Yeah, and I only do the pedal, and I I've thought about doing a motor on it. The only motor I would probably do would be a bow mount just to have spot lock, but I don't think I'll ever do a Torpedo or a Newport on the back of it, just because the kayak is so fast as it is,
It
that
is.
I don't mind putting the extra effort to be the fastest kayak on the water. And there's guys in our league that when I take off in the pedal, they're just like, "This isn't even fair." Like, I mean, it is. I'll hang out in the back and wait to see where the pack's going, and then just blow by whoever I need to blow by. And it's yeah, it's a fast kayak, and even
It
if you
is.
compare to some of the motors out there, they they're amazed at how fast it can go just on the pedal power.
Now, for me, it's I love the Bite FD. That's my pedal drive. I have it in the Playa scheme.
And that's I used
And
to have that kayak.
yeah, yours was red, was it not?
Yeah, mine was the red, gray, and black one. And yeah, you go if you go further back on my Instagram, you'll see it
Yeah,
on there occasionally. Yeah, that bite was great. I mean, it handled the Columbia River surprisingly well. I mean, I don't want to say better than most, but it was definitely for its size. You wouldn't expect it to handle some of the worst winds on the Columbia. Like it was nothing. But yeah,
I
it's an amazing kayak for what it is.
it's a for one, it's a go-kart. Like I'm 6 foot 4, like I'm a tall guy, and usually, I'd probably lean to more of like a 12, you know, I like space. That's the
Yeah,
biggest thing. And I'll
yeah, we're
I
about the same height too, so
yeah.
that's funny you mentioned that.
Like, and so when I remember I was like looking for pedal drive, I was like, do I go NAR, do I Coosa FD? But my heart really said like Coosa X, but like I have my Lizka, I have my riverboat. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go and do the Bite FD because I was just like, I just love the look of this little go-kart, and man, that
Hmm.
flex drive, it moves, and I've taken that thing out on, like, Lake Ontario. I've done the St. Lawrence, and a couple of other, big bodies of water and choppy rivers, and man, it handles just perfectly. Like,
It
and
does.
I've actually finally figured out my rigging on it, and like, last weekend, I had a chance to actually, like, kinda do a little more testing it out with how I'm finally getting it rigged to the way that I like it. And man, like I'll be honest with you, it's I really enjoy the Bite FD. So now you're like was like how like Jackson for you, like how did you go about this? Was this kind of something that you kind of thought, like, oh, I'd like to, be a team, join Team Jackson, or yeah,
Yeah, so mine kind of started out. I don't want to say weird, but it was unexpected. It definitely unexpected. I had just bought the NAR for that tournament season, or not the NAR, the bite for that tournament season, and ran it all season. I was the only Jackson kayak on the at that time in our league, and so I ran it that season. Our tournament director sent me a message saying, "Hey, Jackson's looking to do to have a team member in the Pacific Northwest, and the one guy in the Oregon League that had, I believe it was the NAR, no, not the NAR, the Kusa. Um, he was unable to do it. Either he just didn't want to do it, or something came up to where he couldn't do it. And so the director reached out to me and said, if you're interested in joining Jackson or talking about it and see what it's like, I can give you Dustin's number and you guys can hook it up
Dustin
from there. And
Nichols.
so, yeah, so he gave me Dustin's number and I gave him a phone call, and Dustin and I chatted for a little bit. He said, well, Portland has their outdoor show going on. If you can, that'd be great. You can talk with some of the team members down there and look at the new NAR. I think that's just about the time the NAR was released for the first NAR was released. And so, yeah, so went down there, talked to the team, got to look at the NAR. I've always wanted that NAR, looking at it. So
It's
seeing
a
it in
sweet
person
boat,
just made me
dude.
want it even more. And so, talked to the team, talked to Dustin. We chatted back and forth for a while. And then, yeah, and things just kind of clicked on from there. I wasn't expecting at the time, but I'm glad I made the decision. I'm very happy with it. Um, it's been a wild journey, that's for sure. Learning a lot, learning a whole bunch from the Jackson team, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's that's cool. Like, you at the same time, you feel honored, that,
Oh yeah, no, I was
with
more than honored. It was a surprise that they would reach out, 'cause I never thought of myself representing any major company early, and so having Jackson reach out like that was a huge honor to be given. And I remember asking Dustin, I was like, I don't even know if I'm even fit to represent you guys. Like, I don't want to make it look bad. And he reassured me that everything would be okay. Just do what you do, and you'll be fine. Just keep doing what you're doing. Don't change anything about you, and you'll be all right.
yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
it was huge.
that's no, that's super cool. When did you join the team?
Oh man. Let's see. I got the NAR 2023, so I want to say probably 21, 22, somewhere in that time frame, I believe. They might have been earlier. I know it's just after I got the bite. So
Nice. Nice.
yeah, I have to look back and see when I made the official announcement. But I want to say it's 2019, maybe even somewhere in that time.
No, that's, it's always cool chatting, like, love chatting with kayak anglers, love talking with people in the sport and whatnot. It's cool when you're talking with a fellow JK member, all the way on in the Northwest, holding it down, representing Jackson. That's always fun. And it's cool because, it's neat seeing, your perspective on it, and seeing, and like you said, you have, like your social media and whatnot too. And on Facebook, we cross paths with photos and whatnot. So it's definitely cool to sit down and, just have that conversation about JK also.
Yeah.
And like those new color schemes you got, you got any thoughts on those?
Oh, it's funny you mentioned that in your earlier in your podcast, and you said the storm was your favorite, but I got or the what was it, the Black
Black
Widow?
Widow.
Was that
Yeah.
one of your favorite? Black Widow? Yeah,
Hmm.
I gotta say I like that storm color. That storm,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
blue and black has that
Yeah.
that blue just has a different color to it, and you don't see a lot of them, especially that. So I gotta go with the storm. It's my personal favorite. I think you know I yeah I
So
definitely like that storm.
yeah, I see another great color scheme. Like, I don't know, maybe Playa will always be like that one that's like my ultimate favorite. But I tell you, dude, when I saw that black and red Black Widow, I was just like, oh my gosh. And I think even like
Yeah.
uh Josh Evans had even said too, he's like, yeah, that was his pick, I think. But your so you went from the bite to the gnar,
Hmm.
and I gotta ask you, that's a heck of a lot of boat. Like you went from, like you got to say like the bite, you really have to be strategic in the way you rig it,
Oh yeah, no, you
because
definitely do.
you like, it's a smaller, it's meant to access, those kind of throw and goes, the ability to, not have to necessarily like lug this big gnar, 140-pound boat. um what was that transition like? Like you have the bite after now you've got this thing, with, you've rigged it all. You kind of strategically know how this boat works for you. And then you go to this NAR, which is like a heck of a lot of boat. Like there's so
Yeah.
much room in there. There's like rod tubes in there. You got tri tracking. You have it. You're behind the seats, storage, hatches, you name it, you know, a whole different drive system too. What was that like?
That that was a big, I want to say learning curve, but it was a big adjustment. I had a lot more, as stepbrothers say, I had a lot more room for activities on that boat. So the first time I saw it in person, my eyes lit up, and I was like, "That is," I saw it at Next Adventure Paddle Store when I went to pick it up. Like that is a massive kayak compared to the bite. I was like, I don't like. All right, I guess I'm doing this now. So loaded up. I took it to the water, and the first time I got into the seat behind it, it felt like I was sitting in a boat. I mean, you had all this
Yeah,
space in front of you to do things with. I was like, this is, I took a few rods out and maybe a tackle box with me. I was like, this is gonna be this is gonna be a bit different. And I learned that you can feel the weight different too. I got so used to pedaling that gnar around and got, it's or not the gnar, the bite around, and it's pretty agile and
yeah,
quick. And I got behind that gnar, and you can feel all 140 pounds of it when you're trying to pedal it for the first time. I'd never been in a kayak that size, so it was
it's
definitely
battleship.
some getting
Yeah,
used to. The legs had to
it,
get a better
yeah.
workout. Yeah, it's a battleship what it is,
Oh,
especially when you
that's
go
what
from a small one to a big one like that.
it's a battleship. It's cool. I like
Yeah,
I said,
so it took
it.
it took some adjusting to get to, and I'm still tinkering with the setup. It's finding better ways to store things, finding better storage options. So I'm still tinkering with it. I've had it for 2 years now, I think.
So, you said tinkering. I got my Bite FD last summer, so 2023. And it's taken me till about now to finally like say like, I don't like this on it. I'd rather have this. Tinkering with it, moving things around. And I'm, screw it. We're drilling some holes in this thing. We're putting mounts here. We're doing this. The last thing that I need to add is the Jackson, the under seat bag will be the last thing I think that will like solidify the deal for me. Like this is like having that extra storage. What about you? What is that one piece, whether it's, a yak attack mount, and I'm sure there's probably other stuff that I could probably put on it, but I just knew that under seat bag for me is just like, boom, that's definitely something. What about you? Is there, moving you have a lot of boat, you know what I mean? Like you've got that ability to really just r- rig the dream, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. God, I just added the 36-inch tri-tac bar to the front of it to open the deck up even more. I got my fish finder sitting up there. I moved my switchblade swing arm up to the front to hang off that extra inch or so that sticks out, and so I've got a lot more deck space to put things on. And I, there's a few other things I want to add. I want to add the rod holder, that tri rod holder. I like to have
Yeah.
my rods off to the side, especially my 3 most common that I use in tournaments, having them there at the side ready to go. So, looking at putting that back on, and I think my final piece would be adding I'll be adding the phone holder like you're talking about. I just saw it the other day from
Yeah.
Yak Attack, their phone holder, and adding a paddle holder under the front of the Mark IV drive to hold my net because my net keeps falling down into my paddle or my pedals, and that little shelf there works great until it doesn't, especially if you're going over choppy waters or whatnot, and
Yeah.
you got the net
Yeah.
flailing around on the bow. So I think those would be the final key pieces to add to it.
Um, I gotta ask you though, you have the rod tubes in there so that you have that ability to store your rods. Do you store your rods in there while you're traveling with your kayak, or do you
I
keep
do.
your rod? Oh, okay. Um,
No, yeah, I keep them in the tubes. I've got 7 rods that I store there, so I got 1 rod tube sharing 2, but yeah, I've learned the best way to store them. I got 4 I got no, 5 bait casters and 2 spinning reels. So, I've learned the best way to store them to where they fit nice and flush and don't bounce around too much.
no, that's perfect because like another great thing about the NAR, like you like having those rod tubes, being able to like put your rods in there and store them, whether you are traveling on the water, like that's a bonus because somebody like you who has a truck, unless you're, let's say, adding an actual raw physical rod tube, you got to take those 7 rods, bundle them up, and boom, where do they go? The driver's seat and the back seat, and you might have other stuff there. You might have other people there. I've traveled to tournaments before with Roberto and I and we'd have rods, and I'd be like in the passenger seat, and boom, there'd be all these rods like all gunned up, his and mine, all right beside, in there. And yeah, so I always thought that would be like a solid way to travel with the rods. Um,
Yeah, for mine it varies on how far I'm going. If it's a long like the Umpqua 7-hour drive, I'll put them in the front seat next to me in the passenger seat. They'll be my passenger princesses and hang out there. But uh, if
nice,
it's shorter drives or driving to the boat launch, they'll usually hang out inside the kayak. That way their baits are tied up, they're ready to rock and roll. All I have to do is just take their covers off and either keep them in the tube or put them in the rod holders in the back of the
nice.
kayak.
Um, while we begin to wind down, I was just thinking, you have a YouTube channel.
I do. I'm still learning how to use YouTube and to use cameras, so it doesn't
Cool.
stay quite up to date. But yeah, I really want to get back onto it. I'm thinking maybe next year will be the right time to get back onto that. This year's a little
No,
bit late to follow the tournament trail, but I think I'll have it ready by next year.
yeah. Um, yeah, if you want to check out Trey on YouTube, it is Trey A Potts
Yep.
is your YouTube channel. Definitely give him a check it out. Hit him up with a like, a subscription, a follow, whatnot. Um, yeah, YouTube. Yeah, that's I've in this past year kind of did what you said, kind of gotten into the YouTube thing, still trying to learn it, still trying to, create content with it. And yeah, it's not easy. It's not an easy road, but
No, it's definitely not as easy as I thought it was going to be. So it's the learning curve. Still trying to figure it all out, and know, with my mentality, when I get to on fishing, I'm mostly focused on the fishing, so it's hard to remember I
it's
got
funny.
cameras need to turn on or off or
See, that's me. I'm I got these action cameras this year. I got back into it. I had one way before and then I lost it. Anyways, and I still have a hard time going out there and being like, "Oh yeah, don't forget the camera," or I'm like just so like,
Mm-hmm.
"Gotta get out on the water, gotta get out on the water. Let's go. Ooh, gotta catch some fish." Like I'm not thinking about like the camera, and then it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh,
Yeah.
I catch," and then it's like, "Oh, I just use my phone." You know what I mean? Like I don't know, like. Sometimes I wonder if is this really what I'm meant to do? And it's even like, content in the summertime. Like I guess I say I would rather spend my time out fishing, going out there. And then I tend to put most of my content up on like my Instagram or whatever, like come like, the fall into the winter time where I'm like going back through and like searching, oh yeah, that, oh yeah, I caught that, like I don't know. I guess I'm
Yeah.
maybe falling behind on the times, I guess. But yeah, no,
Oh,
dude, it
I
was
can't tell
like
you how many times I've caught a big fish. And
yeah, just it didn't cross my mind to just throw it up right away.
oh yeah, you
Um
forget. I
yeah,
release a fish. I go, oh, should have taken a picture of that fish.
yeah. Yeah, and I don't know, I think at the same time, like, we'll always have that photographic memory of those fish. And I also think back to when I began kayak fishing, like, 10 years ago, there was no the only photos that I ever had was the photo if somebody came out with me, if my uncle came out with me, he took a picture of me, you know what I mean? There w I It
Yeah.
was the last thing on my mind was to, like, take a photo of this fish or with my cell phone. I was, like, I was petrified I was gonna my cell phone was gonna get wet, but, um, yeah, like, it was a very, like, simple approach, you know what I mean? I was just out there to fish, and I think sometimes that's really just coming back to me the past, like, 2 years. It's just, like, I just wanna go out there and I just wanna fish, like, I don't know. So, but yeah, like I said, I'm working hard at it too. But dude, I just wanted to say, as we wind down this podcast and like this has been a really fun show, and you're gonna have to come back on one of my newer um a new segment that I got coming up. It's probably gonna come out next month, just based on the schedule lineup. But yeah, it would be cool to have you come on again. So for the folks, let them know where they can find you, Trey.
You can find me on Facebook. Trey A Potts is where I do most of my announcements for tournaments coming up and post tournament things. And then on Instagram at Trey Potts 45, you can follow me there, and you'll see different kinds of content. A lot of my bass tournaments this year or this fall is
Yeah,
going to be a
dude.
lot of salmon fishing coming in. So yeah, those are my
Yes,
two big ones.
some solid photos there of you and like some big kings, big salmon. Um, yeah, no, it like I said, guys, go hit up. He's a fellow JK member. He's out there in the Northwest, holding up some big smallies, some big fish. Hit him up with a like, follow. But yeah, Trey, thanks for coming on the River Run, dude. It's been a lot of fun having you here. But yeah, no, you know where to find the River Run podcast. It is on Thursday nights, 7 p.m. on the Paddle and Fin Network. You can check it out also on YouTube, which is the River Run Fishing podcast TV channel. Check it out, hit it up, subscribe, give it a follow. Also, do the same for the Paddle and Fin YouTube network. Also, you can find us on Facebook. River Run Podcast is on Facebook. It's on Instagram. Also, check it out. Uh, drop us a like, drop a subscription. A follow if you'd like. I'll be honest with you, I am greatly appreciative of anybody who comes by the River Run podcast, and I'm very grateful to have an awesome teammate like Trey. Trey coming on, sharing his story on kayak fishing, the Northwest. And once again, I'm Adam Pross, your host of the River Run podcast, and Trey and I will see ya later. Have a good night.